Okay, boys and girls, this is a bit of a test to see if I can do a little teaching to you guys using a video. The other day we were talking about the past tense, okay? And the word that we were using, does anyone remember what word kind of brought up the idea of talking about what's happening in the past? If you forget, it was the word flown. Okay, and we talked about that, and that is talking about the past. And so when we say we're talking about a word that's talking about the past, we say it's in the past tense. Now, some of you, if you have taken French, which I guess all of you are because you're in the French immersion program at this point, you will have talked about verbs, and the word flown is a verb. Okay, so I'm just going to make a note up here and say that this is a verb. And does anyone remember what a verb is? I'll write it here. A verb is a action word. So any word in the English or the French language that is talking about an action is a verb. So flown is an action because you're talking about flying, and here's some birds flying, that's an action. They're doing something. Okay, now we're talking in that sentence that we were looking at the other day, we were talking about having flown somewhere. So we were going to say something like I have flown in a plane. Okay, that's something that happened in the past. Now, if you were going to talk about something that was that was happening right now, you might say, I am flying in a plane. So if somehow you could maybe pick up your cell phone, here's your cell phone here, and you could dial a number, and you were on the plane, and you could call me. Actually, let's say that's my cell phone, and this is you in the plane. Here's the plane, and you are calling me. You would say, "Hey, Mr. Juergens, I am flying in a plane." And I would probably say, well, what are you doing in a plane? I think you should be in class right now. So that is not the past tense. This is the past tense right here because it's happening in the past. What do you think this is called when it's happening right now? Anyone have any ideas? Well, it's pretty easy. It's called the present tense. The present tense. So there we go. So we call it the present tense. We're talking about things that are happening right now. Okay? So it's still an action, flying in a plane. It's something that's happening. It's an action. And this one here is happening right now. This one is happening in the past. Now, let's take it a little bit further. Does anyone have any other... if you're talking about flying or having flown, is there another way to talk about it? Like it's talking about flying in the past. We're talking about flying right now in the present. How would you say it if you're going to say you're talking about something that you're going to do in the future? In the future. What would you say? Would you say, I am flying in a plane? No, that's talking about the present. You wouldn't say, I have flown in a plane, because that's talking about the past. What kind of a sentence would you make if you were going to tell someone that you were going to do this action of flying in the future? So if I said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, and if you were going on a plane tomorrow, maybe you would say this. Here. You might say, tomorrow, oh, did I write that right? Tomorrow I will fly. I will fly. I will fly in a plane. Tomorrow I will fly in a plane. That's talking about the future. And when you're conjugating, remember you're conjugating with verbs, you're saying I will fly. So you're adding this word will. I will fly in a plane. Or I will be flying in a plane, you might say. So there's lots of different ways to conjugate verbs in the English language, just like you would in the French language. Here, let me show you. Here. Just to make it's kind of feel a little more French-like, because you guys are used to that, you might say this. So we're talking about the present. Let's do the easy one. So I am flying. Okay? Well, that is kind of like the je when you're conjugating with je, right? If I say you, how would I say that someone you know is flying right now? I would say, if you called me and you said, hey, Mr. Juergens, I am flying, I would say you are flying. And again, we might say if there's a group of people, we might say something like we are flying. Right? Does that sound like conjugating verbs in French? I know when I took French in school, I did a lot of conjugating, but I didn't do a lot in English. I didn't really realize that English had verbs that you conjugated. So maybe this will help you. I am flying. It's kind of like je. And you are flying. It's kind of like, I don't know, saying il or elle. They are flying, or you are flying. We are flying. It's kind of like saying nous, right? So these are the English. These are the French ways of conjugating verbs, and obviously you would use a different word than flying. You would use the French word, which is vol. But in English, you can conjugate words too. I am flying, you are flying, we are flying. And all of these conjugations are happening in what? Are they happening in the past, the present, or the future? What do you guys think? I think it's happening right now, which means it is the present tense. So there you go. There is your first English lesson on how to conjugate verbs like a French person in English. Hope that wasn't too confusing, and I'll get a little more clear as we go through the year. Whoosh, time to fly away. Whoosh, whoosh.